All right, welcome back to another video. Last video, I didn't do any studying because I was just looking ahead towards the future. Sorry about this light here. I think it'll be better if I face the window, or worse. Yeah, it looks like it's a lot worse. Okay, so I'll go back to how I was. There we go. That looks like it's the best light. I can even turn on the light, but it'll get better as I talk. So last video kind of came to a unfortunate realization, and that's that the test is only offered during weekdays, and it's only offered in places that would require more than a day of travel if I were to drive. I mean, a flight would work, but even then it's going to be like 3-4 hours. So the test starts on a weekday, as I mentioned, but it starts right away in the morning. Good news is that it starts Pacific time, and I'm Central time, so it will be an easier time for me. I'll get an extra 2 hours of sleep. So really the only way I can do this test is to fly down after work on Thursday, have a day off from work on Friday, and then take the test on Friday. So, I mean, it's a very reasonable plan. I think it'll work. There's really no problem with that. The other issue I found yesterday was that there's actually two versions of the test now. There's there's version 960, which is the version I had been studying for. That's an 8-hour exam that has some expanded topics on it. And then there's the version 961, which is the version that might only be offered when I sign up to take the test. It actually did not specify which version you were signing up for when you signed up for the exam, which I thought was very unfortunate. I really need to know the version I'm signing up for in order to optimize my study. On the 961, we're going to be tested on things like Python, more modern things, because it's going to use version 19 of an MX router image, whereas version 960 of the exam uses version 12, so you would not need to study Python scripting as much, because I don't even think they support it in version 12, whereas in version 19 we will need to know more. So that's, for the most part, that's just plain old good news, because Python scripting is a lot easier and more intuitive. You can do a lot more with a lot less, so it's good news in some regards. It's a shorter test. It has topics that are more immediately relevant that I would have encountered in my professional experience. But there's bad news, and that's the test-taking process seems very unwilling to accommodate people working full-time. So I will need to take a day off on Friday. And then, yeah, that's the main bad news. I was always kind of expecting myself to have to travel, so that's not going to be a big deal. It's going to be kind of expensive. Oh, yeah. I guess I'm missing the biggest bad news too. So I was planning to take this in September, but I mean, if you look at, if anyone is watching this and knows the date, I mean, hopefully if anyone's watching this in the year 3000 or whatever, well, even then it might be very, very sadly apparent what is going on. So if I just type in fall resurgence of coronavirus, look at that, it auto-completes. It's the first thing that happens. It really, really looks like there will be a resurgence. I live in the United States. We're not doing any testing. We're not doing any contact tracing. Or we are doing that stuff now, but it's not the way it needs to be done. There's a lot of issues with transparency where we're not certain that the test results are accurate. Our president has explicitly stated on numerous occasions that he wants the numbers to be lower. He has stated that. It's not a controversial statement. This is not a political channel. I'm just stating what the president has said, that he wants those numbers to appear lower, where other countries are taking a different approach, where they want every person who has had this disease to be counted. They not necessarily that they want the numbers to be higher, but just they want everyone who has had it to be counted, because then they know how to stop this spread. It's a contagious disease that spreads amongst the population. And if you don't know who has it, or if you miscount people and they go out into the community, that spread is going to get worse, especially during times like the fall, where people do more indoor together activities. So that's kind of the last piece of the puzzle, where it's like, I don't even know if I can take this exam, because number one, is it worth losing a day of work over? Number two, how much of my study is valid? Did I just throw away all my study time? Will I even pass this thing now that there's a new version? And number three, can I take it safely, or am I putting myself at risk for a novel coronavirus, the 8th known coronavirus? There were only previously seven that at this time, due to the US's strategy with dealing with the virus, which has been to, as far as I can see, to, well, let's put it this way, because this is not a political channel. This is a channel to study for this exam. The strategy that the US has taken to combat the virus has not been a strategy that is similar to other countries who have been successful in dealing with it. So it's been quite a bit different. That is a factual statement. If you look at South Korea, they had a case, their first death, I think, or their first case, I don't know, but it happened on the same date as the US. South Korea did testing, contact tracing, all sorts of stuff relating specifically to the virus. US didn't really do anything of that. In fact, they did an active effort to try to reduce their numbers. If you look at, I forget what it's called, but there's a cruise ship that wasn't allowed into the US because it was specifically stated that having those extra 300, 400 people land in the US would make the US appear to have more cases than other countries, which is something our leadership in the White House, our president specifically stated he did not want to have the numbers look a certain way. So unfortunately, the strategies that other countries took that turned out to be effective in hindsight on May 15th, 2020, did involve having those large numbers, and the strategy of reducing those numbers and making those numbers look smaller led to the situation we're in right now in the United States, where we have 80,000 deaths, which is many, many factors. I think 2 or 3 factors of 100 at least over. And again, this is not a political channel. I'm just trying to state the facts. I'm just saying that for me, taking this test in fall on site might be more of a risk than it's worth. Again, we don't know what this virus is necessarily. For a long time, we thought it was a respiratory condition, but it's becoming more clear that it's not that. It's more of a disease of oxidative stress and your body's inability to handle that. So, you know, there's strange conditions. There's kids getting something similar to Kawasaki disease, like an inflammatory disorder. So me, I'm 34. I think I'm in relatively decent health, but it's definitely, I don't think, worth having some sort of chronic health condition, or even losing my life just to get this test. I really don't think that that's going to be worth it. So one thing I think would be good for me to do, even just right now this morning, is just to call Juniper and see what their policy is. And I can do this on the video now, because this is going to be pretty important for me to know, just to have my plans, because it looks like you have to sign up for it in advance. And I really need that Friday slot because, I mean, I guess I could do the Monday slot too. Well, even then, you know, I'd rather get there, get a good night's sleep, take the test, and then go hiking in the redwood forest or something like that, and then come back home. You know, going there, hiking in the redwood forest, and then taking the test, and then getting on the plane right afterwards, to me isn't ideal because I'll be getting home late on Monday, and then I'll have work on Tuesday. So if I want to do better at work, I'm better off leaving work on Thursday, getting to the airport around 7 or 8, getting to California around like 9, 11, getting my rental car, whatever I need, and then getting my hotel, sleeping in the hotel, taking the test, and then going exploring the area. So I'm better off doing that. But even that, you know, is pretty risky. I'm going to need to be in a plane with a lot of people. The testing center, I'm going to have a lot of people in. The proctor will have administered the test to people for a whole week. You know, luckily for me, it's not like a choir or something where people are doing a lot of vocal activities that will cause aerosols. So it's going to be safer than a lot of things will be. But coughing, sneezing on a plane, that's definitely a situation where I'm at a lot of risk if somebody's doing that and not wearing a mask. So, and I don't even know if I can get a N95 respirator. And then I'm going to have to get rid of this, which might be a good thing. I kind of been wanting to get rid of this anyway. It's just the razors kind of can't handle it. All right, so yeah, let's see if there's a number to call or something where I can see if, first of all, I can see which exam is going to be offered. Is the 960 even going to be offered anymore, or do I have to study for the 961? I guess I'd rather just switch over to 961 because it looks like it's going to be definitely easier on me, just for nothing. Even if the content of the exam is a bit harder, just the fact that it's only 6 hours is going to make the logistics a lot easier. So I'd rather take an exam that is easier logistically, even if it's a little bit harder technically. So I'm definitely going to be only interested in that one. Okay, so it looks like you've got to use a new lab registration website if you want to take it after July. I definitely do. I do not think I will be ready to take this before July. So yep, I met all the prerequisites. I've got the JNCIP SP, which was a ordeal in itself. I was really worried I was parked illegally while I was taking it, but luckily that wasn't enough for me to fail, although I barely passed. All right, so yeah, let's just look at the policies and exam security, because hopefully there's a new clause for coronavirus, because this is kind of especially with me traveling and everything, I'm a little bit worried that this is really not going to pay off and I could end up even with possibly a chronic health condition. Probably very unlikely for that to be the case, but if they do have a remote test taking option, I would rather do that. So this is a retake, cancellation, grading results, general rules. So let's use the chat. Oops, can't open the chat for some reason. Maybe I'll try refreshing. Nope, still can't open the chat. So not sure what's going on with the chat. Maybe there's another one. Aha, here we go. Oh, so the agent's offline. That's why I can't use the chat. So yeah, I'm really not sure what to do. I guess I'm interested in seeing what the deal is with the CCIE, because as I've mentioned, I do have the CCNP, so I can take the CCIE routing and switching. There's no issue with that. Aha, look at this, look at this. Ah, okay. So all testing centers are closed. So it looks like the CCIE is taking a whole different approach. You can't even get your CCIE this year due to the coronavirus. Not only can you not take it on site, it looks like you can't even take it remote. Whereas Juniper, it looks like, from what I can gather, you can't take it remote, but you also can't take it on, but you still can take it on site. It's just a matter of if that's worth the risks or not, which for me would be pretty low. And the benefits of getting a CCIE would be pretty high. So something I would have to consider. Oh, that's nice. They're extending the expiration date for all active certifications. So my certifications are extended. Oh, shoot. Well, unfortunately, it looks like I ran out of batteries. My microphone, I think it's been working really well. I've been getting great audio, but it drains batteries really fast. So I either need to get some rechargeable batteries, or I need to figure a way to give it USB power. It has a USB port that is unlike any I've ever seen. I don't have a cable for that. It's a really big one. But it's not a USB-C port. I think it's like a USB-A port or something like that. But unfortunately, I missed a lot of great content where I'm kind of coming to terms with the current situation in the USA and what that means for me going forward, especially when it comes to investing large amounts of time into my career. Is that going to pay off? I really a lot of kind of sad things to think about right now, to be honest. So it really never was this complicated before. Before thinking about what the economy might look like, what the risks are to me traveling, going out. So it's really a different situation than I had anticipated when I first started studying for this exam. So I came up with a numbering system that will weigh the improvements to my career by passing the exam, the effort it requires, the risks, and the expenses. And the final score I'm getting for a CCIE is a -16, which is a really bad score. The score I'm getting for a CCNA is even a -1, but that's a much higher score. CCNA in emerging technologies such as wireless, data center. So right now I'm just doing it for self-learning via Kindle books, and I really think it's going to be a 7. Effort's going to be pretty high. I mean, it'll be whatever I make it. I think it actually will be less. I actually don't think it'll be that bad. It'll be more than the CCNA, but it will be less than the CCIE-SP, especially since all the book is going to be right there for me. I don't have to go find my own learning resources and kind of struggle in the dark. So it's definitely going to be less than the IE. It's definitely going to be more than the NA. So I think a 6 is a decent score for that. Risks, now here's where I get the big benefit. A risk is going to be a 1 because all I do is I just stay in my apartment, I buy the Kindle book, and I do the things. And then expenses, that too. Average Kindle book is like, $30. I think it's hard to find a Kindle book for over $100, whereas the CCNA is going to cost me $200 to take. So it's not going to be completely inexpensive, and then the more books I buy, the more expensive it's going to be. So I'll rate that as a 2. So let's see what the score is for this. So it's going to be 7 minus 6 minus 1 minus 2. So we've got 1, 0. Oh, okay, so that's interesting. So this is actually a -2. So yeah, and then of course I don't know. These numbers are just complete estimates. I don't know how accurate they are. They're probably very inaccurate. But you can see, I think it is pretty clear that I do have other options besides continuing to work through this exam. And unfortunately, I think they're going to be a lot more, a lot smarter, and they're going to be more beneficial for me overall during the long run. So yeah, a lot to think about. I'm going to have to end the video here. I'm going to have to really think about what I'm doing and if it's going to lead anywhere, or if I'm just kind of investing my time into something that's not going to pay off, and I want to redirect my investments of time into something more beneficial. So I've got a lot to think about. If you've got any suggestions for me, or anything that's if you've got experience in IT and you've ever had to make a decision like this where you're investing your time into learning something, and your time just you didn't get a return on investment, you just threw all that time away. Please let me know in the comments kind of what you've learned from that. if there was a different direction you could have gone that was a better investment, or if you kind of thought that the CCIE or expert level exam was a bad investment, but you did it anyway and it paid off. I'd love to hear that story, because that's kind of just the way I'm wired, and the way I think I tend to want to do the hardest thing, just because I think that proves the most that your ability more than that. But of course, it is important that you can make wise decisions too, not just that you go and do the most difficult thing. It's about investing and getting a return on your investment. But in this case, it's your time, and it is a little bit of your money too, but it's mostly just your time. So let me know in the comments, hopefully, if you've got advice for me. But until then, I will see you in the next video.